Hi everyone, my name is Anna. I'm a fantasy writer who sometimes makes videos. And today I'm very excited because we're doing a video where I'm not going to do all the talking. Today we're doing a video all about giving my husband my rough draft and seeing what he thought about it. So I was super nervous and excited to finally let somebody read my draft. It's really awesome to have a draft in a readable state so that I can finally talk to someone else about it. Yeah, he finally finished reading it. It took him a month to read it, but we don't have to talk about that. We just sat down and had a little chat about it. So that's what we're doing today, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, all right.
Oh, cheers, I guess.
Cheers. Okay, so we're here.
Yes.
And you read my book.
I did.
First little
It made
section.
me sweat. I'm already sweating.
Yeah, I'm sweating too. Wow, okay. Who the hell are you?
I'm your husband.
You want to introduce
Yeah.
yourself?
Hi, I'm Luke.
Tell us 3 facts about yourself.
Okay. I studied theater in college. I'm an avid D&D player now that has sort of taken over my life.
Entirely.
And I've pulled her in as well. 3? How about 2?
Okay, we'll stick with 2.
I can't think of a third.
So, every great relationship, I think, at its core is a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the core of our friendship and why we get along so well is that we are both storytellers.
Yeah.
So what's your relationship with stories and storytelling and all that?
Yeah, that's nice to think about. I mean, coming from a theater background, I was doing a lot of devised theater and devised Shakespeare. I mean, I think we have a lot in common, but I think especially in the beginning part of the process, we sort of are opposites.
Okay.
In a way.
Tell me about
You know,
that.
when it comes to idea generation, I, am very much about throwing things against the wall, and I don't care if something lands. I may not know why it lands, or I don't care why it lands, but I just know that it's there.
Try shit.
Yeah, like I don't care if I don't know what this thing is, but I have a feeling it's something and I'm going to use it later. And I know that you hate that because I've tried to do that with you a few times over the course of the process.
Because I know immediately if it fits or not, and if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit.
And I actually love if things don't fit because that's exciting to me. And I'm like, oh, this is unexpected. I didn't think about it before. But I know you it's your editor brain, right? You want something to have a reason, and you want it to be cohesive.
Yeah.
And I sometimes don't.
So you like organic story creation?
Yeah. We would do a lot of, we'd make compositions and a lot of random movements, and we would follow certain prompts just to generate things without, a lot of the stuff that we did in our generation was about not making a story, not connecting it to a narrative, just building pieces, and then figuring out later on, oh, actually, I think this thing that you did could be this.
So that's interesting because in the writing world, this is a tangent that I did not plan, but in the writing world, we talk about pantsers versus planners.
Pantsers?
Yeah, so writing by the seat of your pants.
Oh, okay.
So you don't necessarily know what story you're writing, and when you write a scene, you have no idea how it's going to end or where it's going or what character might pop up, and so it sounds like devising is like pantsing.
Yeah, I mean, at least in the way that we did it,
Yeah.
you may, on a certain day, say, I'm going to try the opposite of what I've been doing just to see what moments I find.
Yeah.
Right.
That's something a lot of pantsers do because they feel like you come up with things that are more organic and natural and will surprise you, as opposed to if you sat down and outlined every single detail, it might be a little more stiff.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like character creation or things like that, if you said you needed a character for a scene, my first thought would be like, let's go roll some dice and get some totally random things, and then we'll work with it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then
And I hate that.
And you hate that, and you won't do it. So that's why I learned to stop suggesting that like a long time ago.
Even with D&D, I'm very much, what's the backstory? What's the character coming at this from?
Yeah.
And I want that to guide my choices.
That was really fun to watch you on that side of the process too.
Because we've been playing D&D together.
Finally got her. I mean, you came in, you picked, not to get into the
We are going off on such a tangent
but
right
you
now.
picked like a very a class that has such a strong inherent story and already has a strong connection because you picked a warlock. I mean, the way you're drawn to certain characters and things like that, I think it made a lot of sense knowing you as a writer?
Another thing that we writers ask each other a lot when we were trying to get to know each other, and a question that, flies around a lot in the online community when you're trying to get to know another person is, what are your favorite tropes? So you know what I mean by tropes.
Yeah.
Common story elements that you'll see a lot, or character archetypes that you'll see a lot, or plot devices. The MacGuffin, or the quest story, or there's a lot of romance tropes like there's only one bed, etc. etc. Do you have favorite tropes?
My absolute favorite trope for a character, I love the characters that don't really have arcs. I love Superman, a Superman story, there's going to be an arc and things are going to happen, but I love a character who knows what they are, normally, and these are usually good characters. I love boring, basic good guys.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really interesting, the person who, it's not a dilemma for them to make the right choice. I'm not a big tragedy person. Like, the tragic background isn't necessarily one of my favorite things.
It kind of seems to me, knowing you, that you're not always attracted to the protagonist who's going through the change of the story.
I love it's usually a side character, a person they meet. I love, like, if there was a person in the group, in the ensemble that didn't speak, they were probably my favorite character.
You're always attracted to the foils, and I think you also like mysterious characters.
Yeah, it's cool to me, like, the person who's just rock solid. Like, that's my favorite thing.
Who can always be trusted.
Yeah, I love the dependable, the person who sort of grounds everything.
Yeah. So not the best friend character, but, like, the second in command character.
Favorite X-Man? Colossus. Like, literally, he's made of metal, he's solid, and people say, maybe not the most interesting character, but I kind of think that them not being interesting is interesting, because I think less baggage is interesting, which I know is inherently maybe uninteresting for the protagonist, or in many cases, but
but so you as a reader, if you were someone who read very avidly, you would be someone who's paying a lot of attention to the side characters, and I think you would love ensemble cast books, because heist novels or heist stories are something that you love too.
I love a team. I love when people have their part on the team. They're really good at it. I know when, this problem has come up, we know we're asking this person. I don't have my ring on. Look at my ring. Sorry.
You got it.
Sorry.
Show us for proof. Okay. On to writing.
Okay, yes.
So we have been together for 10 years, and I have rarely showed you my writing. I have showed you things kind of when they're finished, when I've worked on them, and I've been like, okay, here it is. I haven't really invited you to the table. I haven't really treated you like a CP, critique partner, or alpha reader, someone who is reading something that is very much a draft and looking for proof of concept. I've always kind of given you polished stuff and never, had that CP kind of relationship with you.
You let me read a few chapters, or maybe the first act of the previous version of this book.
Yeah, so I've talked before about how this used to be a sci-fi dystopia.
Yeah.
And I let Luke read the first act of that book and then quickly decided it had to get tossed.
But that was good. That was fun. That was the first thing that I got to read of yours. Yeah, that's a good point. I only get to see it when it's done. I read most of the stuff that you wrote in college, but it was usually, you turned it in.
We're not revisiting this.
Yeah.
So me giving this to you.
Yeah, it was big.
It
was big.
This is very rough. It's only the second draft. And I really second guessed whether or not I was ready to give it to you, because you can only poison the well once. He can only read it for the first time once. And I wanted to make sure that I had it in good enough shape that you could kind of get what I was going for.
Yeah. I've been begging her to let me read it, because I don't know, I get what it's like to show a work in progress. So that side of it wasn't going to bother me. I was, happy to look past or read if there was something that was more of an outline or things were going to change.
So I worked on this for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you anything about it. You knew I was writing a book and like that it was fantasy, and you watch my videos, so you knew whatever I put in my videos. But I did not have conversations with you about my characters or story or anything. I kept it very close to the vest.
Yeah.
And I kind of just plopped this book in your lap and said, read it.
Yeah, if we were going on a walk, you would ask very general questions when you needed to brainstorm. You'd be like, I have a character who's kind of in a place that needs to do a thing.
Yeah.
And then we
kind of the way I talk about it in my videos.
Yeah.
So, what did you imagine I was writing, and did it line up?
Yeah, I think it lined up. I mean, you gave me some bits and pieces. Like I kind of got a sense of what was going to survive from your previous version.
The sci-fi.
You know, some of the like familial things that were happening, and you know, and then just seeing, you know, your boards in your office and things like that. But I think I came into it with a pretty good idea. It was steamier than I thought.
Ooh. Can we
steamy,
talk about that for a second?
Pretty steamy stuff.
Because by fantasy romance standards, my book is hella tame.
Really?
Yeah, my book has 3 kiss scenes in it, and one of them is fade to black.
They kiss hard.
But there's no on the page anything.
Right.
So for adult fantasy romance, it's hella tame, and that is something that I've been struggling with, not knowing which direction, up or down, I want to take it.
Because I was reading it and I was, woo!
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, the fact that it was fantasy romance was a reason why I kept it close to the vest for so long.
Well, I think because almost keeping it smaller. I mean, like, you know, people make spoofs of romance novels and things like that. So there's some familiarity there with the language that they use, but you have very contained moments, but they hit pretty hard.
Can you explain that a little more?
Well, like how.
Like they're short scenes?
They're shorter. And then it's little actions that are happening.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're describing things. You're living in a moment for quite a while.
In a romantic moment?
In a romantic moment.
You slow it right down. Slow-mo.
Steamy moment. And you're in there.
Okay, other tangent. Speaking of, so you are not really a reader.
Right.
And you definitely don't read fantasy, and you don't read romance. So
Yeah.
you are not my target audience.
Right.
So how was that reading it, you know? It's not a fit.
I like fantasy. I just gravitate to other mediums first.
Yeah,
I'm much
fair.
more of a like film and TV
Yeah.
kind of guy, or RPG or something like that. Like I love jumping into a new world and things like that has its own rules and histories. But I didn't find that part was cool. That was really fun. That was I like that.
Not the romance.
No, but the romance was really good. I think I told you I liked the relationship between the two mains, and I liked their dialogue, and it all felt real. Talking about tropes, I'm like, okay, I kind of get who this guy is, but it was never grating, right?
Okay.
And which sometimes I don't know how much you've spoken about this character in particular.
I'll bleep anything that I don't want to put in.
The kind of brash hotshot, I know more than you, never felt too much.
Yeah, that's definitely an archetype that it can be too flat if he's not complex enough.
Yeah, but they were interesting, and I liked their relationship, and of course there were extra bits of intrigue to sort of complicate their relationship too, which was really nice. But yeah. It was good. There was some steamy stuff.
That is so funny that you thought my book was steamy, because
There was some it was.
If I self-publish this book as adult fantasy romance, the way that it is right now, a lot of readers would be really disappointed.
But sometimes you can do more with little things.
Which I love.
Yeah.
So why I love to write romance is for those angsty little moments where maybe they like just touch your hand, and then that's like the world goes into slow motion, but that's all that happens.
Yeah. I liked it because you can escalate, but then once you get there, it's like, okay,
you can only go up from
right. So you had there was a lot of angst and heaviness around a kiss.
Yeah.
And that had a lot of weight to it.
Good.
Which was really nice.
I'm glad.
Yeah. It was steamy. It was steamy. I think I told you right after I finished that one of those sections. I was like, woo!
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's hilarious. Okay, so what are your thoughts on like the roughness of the draft? Was it rougher than you thought it was going to be? Was it more polished than you expected?
It was absolutely more polished because you would talk it down so much. You said this thing is a mess. It's terrible. Like, totally ignore this. It was fine. You know, there were chapters where you're like, okay, this is going to happen, or, you know, here's my idea.
It still has some
here.
Notes in it, so he could see my thought process.
And which I knew that was going to be the case. We all have a really bad habit of needing to qualify our work.
Writers
and apologize
especially.
For it.
Writers especially.
This would happen all the time too in theater, where, you know, people, they get up and, you know, before they're about to present something, they go, I don't know, this is just a thing, and, you know, it's just, I think it's just because it's scary to share your work, to share something that you care about with other people.
Yeah.
And you want to try to mitigate against an undesirable response.
Yeah, and I think for me, this one especially was so huge to give to you. It felt like giving you my writing for the first time, because I've showed you my literary fiction, which is pretty polished when I gave it to you, and my literary fiction voice is so different and a lot better, honestly, than my...
This is a different...
You said my real name. It felt like giving it to you for the first time, and it was almost like, okay, I've been with you for 10 years, but, you know, I could give you this and you'd be like, damn, she don't know how to write.
The fears were unfounded, because it was great and solid, and...
Well, you have to say that. That was a part of our marriage vows. You have to like my writing. No other option. You have to say nice things about my book.
But it's true.
It was readable enough that you could see where I was going.
I knew you were exaggerating.
Okay.
Because of, you know, all the reasons that we mentioned above for why we do those things.
It's 90,000 words and 2 years of work. That's hard to just...
I mean, there was really only one chapter where you were like, here's... That was just an outline. And most of the time you would give an outline, but then you had already started digging into it as well.
Yeah,
you know?
So a lot of my process for this draft was I would put bullet points at the top and then write that bullet point out. So some of those were still in there. Do you have a favorite scene?
Ooh... Favorite scene. Let me think. Let me go into my mind palace. Yeah, let me flip through. Let me jog the old brain. I mean, well, first, I love the prologue.
Good.
Really strong start.
Yeah.
Really, that surprised me. I wasn't expecting that.
Prologues are quite controversial. So
Why?
there are a lot of... I know. I love prologues. And I think mine is quite necessary.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't like prologues because they have this bad reputation for being really info dumpy. And it's kind of like, I'm saying this all with like quotes, the writer not being agile enough to weave that stuff into their chapters.
No, I like this. Have you spoken at all to sort of the nature of your prologue or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've said before, it's from my villain's point of view.
Yeah, which was really cool. And I like that we never return to that point of view, because you get just enough like gross bad stuff. I think it so clearly sets up in a way, just by, you know, there are a few times where you get to see their train of thought and you're like, oh, this person sucks. Like they're a bad person, and I don't like them, and everything that they do, I think after that totally makes sense, because you got those few quick peeks into little stuff, you know, not even like these big story moments, but just little interactions, the way they treat other people, the way they look at other people. So getting to actually see the progression of thoughts. Right.
I think that was really something I wanted to accomplish with the prologue, because there's been this trend in fantasy for the past few years in Marvel, etc., where villains have to be morally gray, where you can almost agree with them, but they're just a little bit off, and you almost kind of see the reasons why they're doing something, or their behavior is rationalized for some reason. And I just wanted to write a straight up fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to write a villain that was scary that when was on the page you were uncomfortable and you didn't know what they were going to do next. I just wanted to write a fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to establish that right out of the gate. I did not want him to be seen as a love interest, kind of like we have all these, that's another trope in fantasy, is like the darkling, bad guys who are attractive. I wanted to nip that all in the bud.
Yeah, speaking, going back to tropes, I think this whole idea of a really good villain believes that they're the hero is
exactly
sort of, I don't like that. I think a really great villain can have, justifications in their own mind for why they do the things that they do, but I'd much rather read about a villain who knows that they're crappy.
Yeah. Because
that they don't care.
Yeah.
Right?
There are many people in this world and in this country that want power for power.
Yeah.
And they know that they're a bad person.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing is bad and hurts people, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
And to me, that is more powerful, at least in this moment when we were going through the things that we were going through.
Yeah. And I think it's scarier, too, when you have a villain who is unabashedly bad. Who can't
be rational. You cannot have a rational kind of conversation with them.
I know I don't have a lot of history with romance, but I don't like the bad guy turned lover kind of thing. Like, let bad people be bad people. Not all bad people are worthy of redemption. Maybe that's just maybe it's sort of a nihilistic view, but I think some bad people are just bad.
We're cynical people.
Yeah, I think that's warranted in these times. There are bad people who are just bad.
Yeah, agree.
It's even better when you stop them, or when you can stop them.
Yeah, it'll be satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, fair.
So the prologue was good.
Prologue was really, really cool.
What do I need to do more of?
I think the biggest thing as I was going through is I wanted more sensory information about the world. I think you love characters. I mean, you said even this morning that dialogue is your favorite thing. You love the interpersonal side.
Yes.
I think the next part is all of that good
painting
detail
the world.
Painting the world, the descriptions, filling it out with other people.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah. And I think part of that is because in this first draft, I mean, you're most attracted to telling a story about relationships between people, so it makes sense that in your first draft, that's going to be the focus. That's where, most of the juice is.
Yeah.
And now you can go in and...
Yeah. That was a big thing in this draft, was kind of starting to lay a little bit of groundwork for setting and set pieces. So deciding, okay, I can take this conversation that I wrote in my zero draft, but now I'm going to put it at a waterfall.
Yeah.
And
I know you hate naming places.
Hate it. I agree. The next draft is going to be all about that white room syndrome.
Yeah. I think one of my specific thoughts there was one scene where you were talking about characters having a dinner, and I was like, I want to know what they're eating.
Agree. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Give me that good food.
Give me the food.
I'm hungry.
So, from this experience of watching me work on this for 2 years and talk about my writing process online and then reading, what the heck I did, what have you learned about novel writing?
What have I learned about novel writing? Learned that I don't want to do it.
Good. Save yourself the pain and torture.
But it's all about relentless forward motion.
Relentless forward motion.
Right. In just getting out there. There's some Stephen King quote. Someone asked about the best way to start a book or something. And it's just write.
Just write.
Put words on the page. And I think you've even gotten better about this over the past couple of years of knowing that the pieces you put out initially don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
I think this is a big improvement that I've sensed from the other rooms. Or as you come back and given me updates that you're now, I think now that you're 2 years plus into it, I think you've learned to be a little less precious.
Certainly.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely butt and chair, as we like to say.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most valuable lesson that I've taken from doing NaNoWriMo, and that helped me level up as a writer, is to let go of that preciousness and to learn how to fast draft and accept the fast draft. And That's something that I really wish writing programs would teach is fast drafting and, really having a good relationship with your writing and especially your first draft writing, because my program was not like that. My program was kind of giving me the feeling of when you put it down, it needs to get put down right.
Mm.
And that was something I had to unlearn because
We don't like that.
I don't think you can go anywhere with that mindset. Yeah. And now I get to learn how to revise. And every bit further you go teaches you about where you've been.
Yeah.
And I get to keep learning new skills as I get further and further down the road.
And I feel like if you go on with that mindset too, there's no opportunity for you to surprise yourself. It allows, the freer you are, things can change, right? And you want things to change.
Yes.
Right? You want things to change and evolve. Mm-hmm. But I think we can always, roll some dice when you need to,
Yeah. I mean, totally. I mean, letting go of that preciousness and allowing yourself mm-hmm. to kind of be a little bit silly, embrace the tropes that you love mm-hmm. and that spark your creative interest, because when I graduated and was trying to get back into writing, I had to say to myself, what do I really actually want to write? If I ask myself truly, what do I want to write? And it was tropey action stories. It was not lit fic.
Yeah. Well, I remember too with the previous version, you were, I think, you were sort of struggling to, with butts and seats or butt and chair.
Yep.
You were struggling to even get there, and I think you came out of the room at one point. You're like, I don't like this genre. Why am I writing?
Yeah.
In this genre I don't like.
That light bulb moment where you're like, this does not bring me joy.
Yeah.
And if I don't enjoy this, what's the point? Because it's going to be years and years and years. And you got to like it.
Yeah. And something that's so cool is that you made the jump. Said, I'm going to scrap all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take these 2.5 things that were probably the most important, the most interesting things.
Literally two
that
things.
Weren't actually, that were, again, interpersonal mm-hmm. relationship based.
Yeah.
And I'm going to change everything else around it.
Yeah.
And so I think even just making that jump was very cool and brave.
Oh, well, I am so excited that I finally gave you the book.
Yes.
And I truly feel like I have you in my corner now.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you always were, and you've always been so lovely and supportive and amazing. But now I feel like you have a seat at that table, and I'm mm-hmm. really excited. Like, after you read the book, we sat down and replotted the whole end.
Yeah, that was really fun.
We redid the climax together and came up with a way to give my character more agency in that moment and to really, satisfy her growth arc in a new way that I love. Mm-hmm. And that was so cool. And as soon as you gave me that idea, I was like, he's right. He's completely right.
It's really fun when we have those conversations where we're working through something, because there will hit a certain point where I can see you're gone. You've left.
Just
that, okay, I should just stop talking.
She's left the building.
Yeah, you kind of stare out into the middle distance, and I know, the spider web of ideas mm-hmm. has gone up. I'm like, okay, she's got it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stop talking.
It's been so fun to have those conversations with you, and now whenever I work on a scene, because I'm writing draft 3 technically right now, and I can tell you, I'm working on this scene where X happens and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun, and also we're doing our D&T campaign together. I just feel like we are having so much fun this summer being in stories together, and me giving you the book. I mean, it sounds crazy to say because we've been together for 10 years and you're my freaking husband, but this was a bonding exercise for me.
Yeah.
And this was a trust exercise for me.
Yeah. I remember the day I finished the book and we were talking about that third act stuff and brainstorming. I remember having a feeling of oh, this is big.
Yeah.
That you're letting me into this.
We did a new thing.
Yeah.
And we explored a new piece of our relationship.
Yeah.
By doing this.
That was a first. Mm-hmm. And we don't have too many of those. We're really going on a decade. And you've already, you've already let me read, the next draft of the prologue. So I'm,
mm-hmm.
I'll get to, I know you're sharing more frequently with me now, and
Yeah. So as far as what's next, I think I'm going to give you the book in acts. So when I finish rewriting Act 1, I'll give it to you and we can kind of compare the versions.
Which is really fun too, just seeing already an enormous leap. Already the world is filling out more, which is really cool. It's cool to see that step by step, actually see you build.
Yeah, it's so fun to learn about the process of revising, and you really can't learn it until you do it. And I was way back in the beginning of learning how to write novels. I would beat myself up for not getting all of these strokes in one fell swoop, but you can't. Mm-hmm. It's like a painting. You have to paint in layers. Mm-hmm. You can't write a scene and do all these different things in one go. You have to layer and layer and layer. Any closing thoughts?
Thanks for letting me read your book. You wrote a freaking book. That's pretty cool.
Thanks for reading it and filming the video with me.
Sorry that it took so long for this to actually happen. I think you first asked to maybe record a video like 3 weeks ago or something like that.
We got here. We did it.
We're here.
We did it.
Yeah.
You want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye!